And football journalist Arunava Chaudhuri joins us from Reimshed to talk more about what exactly has been happening in the league. Guten Abend, Arunava, good to see you there. So, looks like Leipzig has been a fantastic story for the Bundesliga. How exactly did you see their rise coming about in the league?
Hi, Aisha. Well, it's an incredible story, but the story did not start this season. The story started many, many years back when an Austrian energy drink maker decided that they wanted to invest into football in Germany. They took up a team in the 5th division, worked with the team, brought in people like Ralf Rangnick, who's called the professor here in Germany. They not only invested in people, they invested in infrastructure and other things, and I've seen it for myself. We had India goalkeeper Subrata Pal training with them in 2012 when they're in the 4th division, and they then already had better infrastructure than most top division teams had.
Right. Arunava, the Bundesliga has been criticized in recent years for being a sort of one-team league. How exactly do you see Leipzig changing that charge?
Well, you see it already this season that the Bundesliga is more interesting than it has been over the last few years. Bayern Munich is not as strong as they were under Pep Guardiola over the last 3 years. So that is something which is different. Leipzig is there. Borussia Dortmund has grown as a club over the last few years as well. So suddenly you have competition from these teams, and Bayern's supremacy is being challenged. And that is good for the league. That is good for the outset of for football in this country, and overall also in the interest globally.
Right, and when we talk about Bayern Munich's performance, how do you assess, the charge of Carlo Ancelotti as the manager for the first 6 months for the side?
Well, you see the differences between the style of coaching and working between Pep Guardiola and Carlo Ancelotti. Pep Guardiola is football crazy, football mad, tries to control everything that anyone and everyone does within the team, within even the squad. While Ancelotti is more of, the uncle. He's like an elder statesman who does not push himself too much on the players, gives them a lot of freedom. And it seems like that has not been really the right thing to do. He has, over the last few weeks, sharpened up a little bit, especially after the loss to Borussia Dortmund. And at the moment, it seems to be working, and one should not forget that the Bayern Munich squad is also aging.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about that table. In fact, Frankfurt and Hoffenheim and Cologne are all fighting really for, European places. But when we look at teams like Leverkusen, Dortmund, Schalke, amongst others, they are struggling. Why exactly do you see that happening in the league right now?
I think one of the reasons is with every 2 years which you have when you have European championships or you have a World Cup around, is that certain players have a shorter break than they need to have, so they're not 100% fit when they get into preseason and actually are pushed sometimes directly playing in the league. And overall, the quality of young players who are coming through in the system in Germany, and as well as the scouting across Europe and around the world, has improved over the last few years, which means also that the standard generally in the German league is amongst the highest, maybe the highest in world football.
Arunava, the winter break's coming up, and that's something I think all of us are envious of when it comes to Bundesliga. But, the Premier League doesn't have that. How exactly do you see, this pause of proceedings really impacting the action that's going to follow when they come back?
Well, there are 2 or 3 factors. I think one factor is, of course, the weather, even though it's quite warm and pleasant at the moment in Europe, so there's no snow issue, but that can be an issue in this part of the world in winter time. Secondly, the players get a 2-week break. And then, they recover. Some of the players have small little niggles, which they've been carrying for the last 2, 3, 4 months. And I think Jürgen Klopp said it earlier this year, very interesting, that he thinks it's better for the teams really to get that time, also to adjust and to reorganize sometimes and get things in a way that you can improve things. And it's worked for German football. It's something which helps, and also helps the national team as well. Because the players get a small break in the winter, you are fresher when you go into the bigger tournaments, and that shows itself as well when you play those tournaments.
Right, you mentioned reorganization, but do you think that there's going to be a real impact on how things stand in the league when they come back from that break, or have the front runners already sort of emerged?
You have seen over the last few years that certain teams have actually collapsed. Frankfurt, a very good example, a few seasons ago, was 7th in the league and they actually got relegated. On the other side, Hoffenheim was a nice story a few seasons back when they were actually last and actually were able to stay in the league. So there have been these stories of teams actually able to recover and get something going. And interesting, of course, is that today, for example, Mönchengladbach fired their coach, André Schubert. So they will be looking, for example, after a very, very bad campaign in the Bundesliga to rejig and also push for a Europa League place, even though they played well against Barcelona and Manchester City in the Champions League. So that gives you an opportunity. And I said it doesn't always work, but it works for a lot of teams. And of course, it also enables teams to really use the winter transfer market to bring in the right players, to do these adjustments and strengthen out and be stronger in the league.
All right, so we'll have to wait and watch and see what exactly happens when they come back from that break. But on that note, Arunava Chaudhuri there in Germany, thanks for joining us here on WION Sports with your perspectives on what's going to be a cracker of a last week, really. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome, Masha.